In a world where two short-term rental bros come together.
What?
Not in that way, bro. There's a podcast of truly epic proportions where we talk about all things short-term rental and shoot the shit along the way. Welcome to the Co-Host Bros Podcast. Here are your hosts, Matt Codd and Austin Spitz.
All right, what's going on, everybody? It's Austin Spitz back with the Co-Host Bros podcast, and I'm here with the co-host tip of the week. Now, my tip of the week that I want to talk about is security cameras. So as you start obtaining clients, obviously, you're going to want to have security cameras in place. We utilize, for the most part, just Ring doorbell cameras because it gives us what we need to manage their property. If they have an additional security system in place, you need to have access to that. And it is the owner's property, so potentially it's tough to take that privilege away from them. They do own the asset, so I don't like when the owners necessarily have access to that. It's not that we have anything to hide. It's just more of a loop of communication where potentially they could be watching it all the time. And that's something you just have to kind of lay down the groundwork and lay down the rules up front that, hey, whatever, if you're checking it all the time, but don't be bothering me. We need to be running our business. We will take care of any issues. And we'll manage the house, and of course we'll manage the camera. So whatever you can do, if you can get the owners off of it, that's ideal. But it is their house. If they stay, in tune to what's going on, that's something that you have to deal with. So my point is, what do you do in regards to security cameras and how do you sleep at night? It's pretty easy. It's pretty basic. So me personally, I turn the security cameras and the notifications off. If I am suspicious about a guest, there's something I'll make a note of, like, hey, something didn't seem right, but, this guest is staying regardless of what happened, and I'll make sure to check the cameras at check-in. But I think the whole point of this is that you're going to drive yourself crazy if you just are continuously checking in every time you get a notification on a camera. And plus, like, for me, managing multiple properties, I'm not going to sit there at night and watch this. Okay, so we vet our guests. We only approve guests that have good reviews going forward. So it gives us a little bit of confidence going into it. We don't often approve. We never approve guests with previous bad reviews. I mean, most hosts don't do that. But if it's their first time staying on Airbnb or Verbo or whatever, and they don't have previous reviews, then okay, how is the conversation going through text? Okay, is everything check out okay? Is there anything suspicious where you need to do some back end due diligence and figure out what's going on with this guest or anything like that? But I think the main point is that when these guests show up, if you want to check to make sure they said they are who they say they are, and the amount of cars in the driveway kind of matches the description of the guest. I don't sit on there and, hunt down, is there a dog? Is there a cat? Did they bring a pet? They didn't say this. They didn't do that. No, I don't do that. So typically, for the most part, I would say overall, if you vet your guests properly, like we do, 90% of the guests that stay with us are good guests, at least over 90. I mean, like, I'm confident with that figure. And I'd say 95 almost, but every now and then, it slips through the cracks. But the point of the story is, would you take those numbers at 90% of the guests is going to be good guests? And then are you going to spend, 90% of your time checking the cameras? The answer is no. So we don't do that. We typically use the cameras to reference if anything bad was to happen at the property. We have that footage to go back and look at. But typically, my goal is to, not interact with the guest as much. make sure they have what they need, leave them alone, let them enjoy their vacation. And we don't tap in. We don't bother the cameras very much. Like I said, if you're new and you have anxiety and you want to check like when they arrive, you sure make sure there's not 20 cars in the driveway and they're not, throwing a party. And then on top of that, there's certain things that you can keep into your house, like noise monitor systems and stuff like that, to where you shouldn't even check your cameras anyways, because if you get, a noise monitor awareness notification, then hey, it's maybe pretty loud. Now you can reference your cameras. But my main point is, if you're wanting to build a property management company, you shouldn't be that dialed in to what's going on at the property, right? Like, you want to be aware, you want to be attentive, and you want to know, who's coming in and out. But in this business, a lot of it is inevitable, and a lot of it you can't necessarily control up until the vetting process. So what's going to be done is going to be done. However, like I said, if you're checking them at check-in and want to make sure, hey, they got in all right, there's not 20 cars in the driveway, fine. But my main point is, don't be that host that is constantly watching the cameras and looking for things to go wrong. Because when you're looking for things to go wrong, you're gonna find things that are wrong. Now you're gonna reach out to the guest, bother them. It's probably not a big deal. For the most part, guests, like I said, are good guests. So what I would do is leave the cameras alone. There's certain times of the year, more recently, like spring break. Spring break we just had in the Texas Hill Country, and it's a spring break like a lot of markets. It's party folks, and for the most part, they were pretty good. And it is a higher liability. There's a higher price point, so you are making more money, but there are those guests that will come in and it's a higher liability guest, and they potentially cause damage. And it happened to us this spring break. But even after that guest had caused that damage, when I went back and I looked at the footage of the cameras, it was like there was nothing I could have done if I was watching those cameras like a hawk. There was nothing I could have done to get them out at the time of it happening. So it was inevitable in the first place. They didn't throw a party. They just were bad guests, but there was nothing on the cameras that indicated they were bad guests. So I guess all this to be said is, my co-hosting tip of the week is, don't check your cameras religiously. If you got into co-hosting to do that, you're going to lose sleep at night. You're going to cause yourself stress, and a stressful life is not a fun life. So you should leave your cameras alone, use them for what they're supposed to be, just security purposes. And that's how we operate. So I think I pretty much explained all that pretty well. So don't be a slave to the cameras. That's all I got. Thanks.
The Co-Host Bros Podcast.